I'm obsessed.
No, I appreciate it. Okay, we're making sure. My little Zoom panel, is it recording now?
Yeah.
Okay, it says pause recording. Okay, we are recording. Working with buyers, part one, are talking about the progression of buyers. So they start with a lead, and when you're generating leads, you're generating potential contacts that you can talk to. So when people talk about lead generating activities, it's activities that are going to get you people to talk to. So leads, and I break it down into leads and prospects and clients. I think a lot of people will get mixed up, and they'll talk to 10 leads in a week, and then you'll talk to them and they're like, yeah, I'm working with 10 clients right now. And it's like, if you've had one conversation with someone about buying a home and you have some basic information, like that person is very far from a client. But going back to the steps that are important in each one, so with leads, it's qualify the contact. So obviously the first thing you're going to do, and leads are going to come from various sources, whether it's someone you met. Obviously open houses aren't happening right now, but it's an online lead. It's somebody that was referred to you by someone. Like, hey, my coworker's trying to buy a house. I told them, I asked them if I could give them your info. You should reach out to them. However you get in touch with that lead, the first thing you need to do is qualify that contact and kind of figure out, one, if they're actually in the market to buy a home to any degree, and then assuming that they are, you need to just learn more about them. So I put in here two acronyms that we're going to go to in more detail. One is ALMS, that's Appointment Location Motivation Survey. That one's a little bit more specific to online leads, and it's a little bit newer because online leads have obviously become a prevalent source of leads, especially with no open houses for agents. So the ALMS strategy is one that you are likely going to be using with most online leads. And then LP Mama is like it's been around for a long time. It's what a lot of inside sales agents use for a long time. We'll break it down later, but it's basically, they go in order of these things, like LP Mama's location, price, motivation, another agent, mortgage, I think, financing, and then appointment. So it's just the way that it's a way to structure conversations when you're talking to leads and trying to qualify those leads. So like anything else, you want to have just some foundational strategies and systems when you're talking to leads. If you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants anytime you're talking to someone that may or may not be interested in purchasing real estate, like your chances for success are a lot lower than if you have strategies and systems of how you're going to guide the conversations, what questions you're going to ask, what information you're trying to get out, and how you're going to adjust based on the information that you're giving them. And then I don't know what GFU, I forgot what I put. Maybe go F yourself, which isn't very appropriate, or not today. So basically I put that because a lot of people, when it comes to a lead, like if you've got somebody's contact that at some point signed up for information on purchasing a home, or somebody told you that they were interested in purchasing a home enough to, get their info to you, you want to be persistent with that lead and follow up to a point where they either just completely tell you to leave them alone. And the alternative to that is they are interested in buying, but they're not ready today to either, further discuss it or whatever. But if it's not today, then there will be a day that it's the right time to talk about real estate. So follow up is super important. So until a lead basically tells you to, go away, stop calling them, completely tell you no, you take that as a not today. I think that's important to remember, especially with new agents where you need to be, you're going to be, you don't have a wealth of experience and just past sales to count on when it comes to people reaching out to you. So your follow-up is where you're going to get it. And honestly, like there's a lot of experienced agents whose follow-up game gets them even more and more business, but there's also a lot of experienced agents, potentially like myself, that their follow-up maybe isn't as good as it could be. And we know for a fact that stuff falls through the cracks purely because we had a conversation with somebody, it wasn't the right time, we never followed up, and somebody else did. So if somebody's thinking about buying real estate and you're not constantly in touch with them, eventually there's going to be a time where they are ready to take the next step, whether that's you know, have a consultation to get more info about the process, or talk to a lender, or whatever it is. Eventually they're going to move farther down the process, and you want it to be with you. So follow-up is obviously super, super important. Consistent follow-up, consistency is a huge part of this business. So you qualify that contact, you get some information, they are interested in buying a house, they are interested in learning more. Then I think it's safe to call that person a prospect. It's somebody that you've built a little bit of rapport with and established some trust, and you've gotten permission to follow up. So you've established enough of a relationship to where they're not just a cold or lukewarm name and phone number and email that might be buying a home sometime soon. They're someone that you've started to establish a relationship with. And that really, the key, I think, when you convert someone from a lead to a prospect, is that you've set that first appointment. If you're just having conversations with people and not making any progress, they don't want to talk to a lender, they don't want to give you more information about what they're doing, that's still just a lead. But once you know what someone's searching for, you know a little bit about them, you know a little bit about their financial situation, what their motivation is, and they've given you permission to follow up, you might be the person they reach out to if they have questions, and you're starting to get farther down the line, and they're open to getting more information. That's when I would consider that person a prospect. And still, again, like how some people are talking about leads as clients, like if you have one appointment with someone, or you've done a buyer's consultation and talked to someone for half an hour, and then haven't talked to them in a few weeks, like don't count that person as a client. Even if you've shown somebody one home, and then, you know, haven't talked to them for a few weeks, like don't in your head think like, okay, well, I have that client and this client. Like, I think it's really important to emphasize that, because I think as a new agent, you're so eager for the business that you have a couple of conversations and you start to think that like the business is yours. And again, in this market, more than ever, like no client is safe until you've really, really earned their trust and solidified that relationship. So moving them into the client phase of the process, that's when you really, you've been in constant communication with them, are really, really familiar with not only their overall situation, but know what they want, where they want, how they're going to pay for it. And there's really a plan in place as far as how they're going to purchase a home. And it's just now you're really in the process, and it's a matter of time. That's when you can really consider someone a client. Once it's just you're consistently communicating with them, and there's a clear goal and plan in place. So it's someone you're in contact regularly with, you're actively touring, and you're writing offers. You know, if as long as you have their trust, I think once you've gotten to the point where you're writing offers for a client and for a prospect, and it's just a matter of finding the right one and having the right strategy and winning the offer, it's 95% safe to call that person a client. And again, like you never know what somebody's going to do. So not being overly comfortable in a relationship and assuming that that person's going to go with you. You're working to earn that trust every single time you are in touch with this client, because like I said, buyers can be pretty fickle in a market that's super challenging. I think this is a good time to maybe bring up buyer broker agreements, because I'm sure people are curious about that or have heard about that. It's basically a document that you can get a buyer to sign to essentially kind of lock them in or make them commit to you. The way the document's written, it basically says like, if they buy a house, then they're obligated to pay you commission. So it locks them in. Some agents swear by them. I have never used one. I think the majority of my colleagues and friends do not use them. I'm not going to tell you that you should not use them, but I like to work with people that want to work with me because they are confident in my ability and they trust me and they enjoy working with me. I don't want somebody that's purely working with me because I forced them to sign some piece of paper that says they're my client. So the buyer's and broker's agreement is something that you can use your judgment and decide if it's something that might be appropriate for you and your business or with certain clients to use. But that's just my 2 cents on buyer broker agreements. Karina, do you want to say anything on buyer broker agreements?
I have a similar philosophy to you, as do I think many agents that have been around for a while, that they're, you want to be working with people that want to work with you. They can come in handy if it becomes like a kind of a procuring cause situation where, your client's not being loyal and you show them the house and then they wrote with a different agent. It can help you, track down that commission payment. But again, that's not really commonplace and it's hard to enforce. So, yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like really, if you're working with someone that you feel like you need this piece of paper to chase after them to make sure, it's like, is that really somebody you want to be working with? So, again, there's agents out there that love them, but and I'm sure in this market, there's people that have used them that maybe didn't previously use them. I have a buddy that like drafted this kind of like client expectation. I don't even know what it was, but it has no legal meaning whatsoever. But basically he like has this unofficial buyer's agreement, and he just feels like having them sign it, makes them feel a little more obligated, makes them a little more loyal, and makes like the relationship solid. So it's like, if you use them right, like there's nothing wrong with them, but at the end of the day, I want to work with people that want to work with me. So I don't use them. But I wanted to make sure that we brought them up because I'm sure that you probably have heard of them or will hear of them at some point. So my opinion on buyer broker agreements. All right, so once you've got that client and you're turning around, you're writing offers, you're making adjustments based on not getting offers or based on the property that's available to them and their price point and location, and eventually you find the right property. You have a great strategy, you get that offer accepted, that client is now in escrow. So once you have a client in escrow, everything kind of changes a little bit because you go from kind of chasing this, you go from like the chasing part of the process to really like being in it. And then now it's real. And now there's a contract and there's times and dates and it's a lot more of a procedure. Like instead of like when someone's searching, it can be kind of fluid. Once they're in escrow, like you're abiding by a contractual timeline and you're moving along the process. So the first thing to do, and there's some great templates to this, that Julie made a really good like email that she sends to clients once they're in contract that we can find for you. But having good systems in place and routines for what you do once you get a client in contract. When you just have one client and one escrow, it's easy to be all over it. But when you have your leads that you're working on, prospects that you're close to converting, you have clients that are actively looking, and you have a couple escrows going on, it's really easy for things to fall through the cracks. So I think it's super important as a new agent to build good habits with how you handle your clients in all different phases, but especially once they're in escrow, because when someone's in escrow, there's a timeline you're sticking to, and you really want to be proactive in adhering to that timeline. If contingencies are due on a certain day and you don't know when they're due, and there's things you need to do to make sure you can remove them on time, and you're not really like in tune with what's going on, like you could be in a situation where your loan contingency is due tomorrow, but your lender is still waiting for your buyer to send them some piece of paperwork, and now you're in a jam, and you need to ask for more time, or it's just a mess. So I think when it comes to a client in escrow, systems and being proactive are the biggest things that I can emphasize. So systems for literally like step by step what you do once you're in escrow. So you'll have a transaction coordinator involved. Depending on the property, you're going to be scheduling inspections. You need to make sure you communicate with the lender and title and escrow so everybody's on the same page. So I put in here again to emphasize, like, be proactive and stay ahead. If you're proactive and you're really aware of what's next in your escrow, that can save you, your clients, the sellers, the listing agent. It'll just make things a lot smoother. It'll just be easier to sleep at night if you're not, waking up in a cold sweat realizing that your inspection contingency is due in 2 days and your buyer is really concerned about some electrical thing, and now you need to scramble and find an electrician to walk through the house with them tomorrow so you can remove that inspection contingency. So be proactive and really just make use of systems so you're being efficient when it comes to getting through escrows. Karina, anything you want to add to that?
I just use some of the tools that we have already, like Asana, for helping to stay organized and on top of it. Folio is a really good tool for it. I set up timelines that can be really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, like even its most basic, like having all the important dates like in your calendar. So, when you're looking at your calendar on a regular basis, you can see when you have to hit certain milestones. But there's a lot of great tools for it. Once you make it through the escrow, obviously there's a few steps that need to be done. We'll go into an escrow in more detail in another training. But once you close the escrow, that's a closed deal. And then that it doesn't end there. If you do your job right, that lead that turned client that turned into a closed deal becomes a past client and advocate for your business. So it's somebody that the longer that you're in this business and the more past clients and advocates that you have out there, the more business that you're going to get. So I think it's important to, even emphasize with them like that the relationship doesn't stop once you've handed them keys. Like you want to be a resource for them. You want to be the person that, whether it's someone you sold a house to or someone that, might help, that might be a future client. Like when somebody needs anything real estate related, or just has questions or whatever, even if it's something that you obviously can't do, like they need a new roof or they need to help their parents with transferring a property to a family member or whatever, you want to establish yourself as the person that people call for anything real estate related. And that's why it's super important to just have some basic knowledge about all things real estate. So when people do have questions, where to go to, or at least point them in the right direction to help them with that. Because if you're consistently top of mind when it comes to anything to do with the house or the real estate market, then you're going to be top of mind when it comes to buying or selling a house, or a friend or colleague of theirs buying or selling a house. So maintain contact. Again, have systems, figure out a way to stay in touch. There's people that like, okay, a week after close of escrow, you call them. A month after close of escrow, you call them. And then a year after close of escrow, you go by and you drop off a gift or something like that. Like, it's especially important with just totally random clients that, you met purely to help them with the process. Like you don't want it to just be a transaction. You want to be a part of their life going forward, because you want them to refer you business. And if you make an effort to really build that relationship, when you're out showing homes and just finding some common ground and turning it into more of a relationship and not just a transaction, that's what's really going to help you when they get to that past client phase. Like it's one thing to do a great job and help them get a home, but if they genuinely like you as a person and enjoyed working with you, the chances of them passing you along to someone that is a friend of theirs or someone that likes and trusts them is a lot higher. And I don't think anyone will argue the fact that referrals from past clients and friends are some of the best clients to get, because if you've ever heard about like the triangle of trust, and like you're working to earn someone's trust, and if that person is referred to you by somebody that already likes and trusts you, you are way ahead of the game when it comes to establishing a solid relationship with that prospective client than if it's somebody that has no connection to you whatsoever. So it makes working with them a lot easier, because you don't really have to work as hard. Obviously you still need to do a good job, but you don't need to work as hard showing them that you're going to do a good job, because they go into that relationship expecting that they have no reason to think that you're not going to. There's definitely a difference, and not always, but overall you'll notice a difference in what it's like in the beginning working with, say an online lead, than somebody that was referred to you by a past client or a friend. It's just, you have to work harder to earn that trust with somebody with no connection to you. So keep that in mind throughout the process, because those past clients and advocates for your business can be a huge, huge resource for a future business. And there's people that have built their entire business on referrals. I mean, my business is almost entirely by referrals, whether it's my sphere or past clients, or industry referrals from, you know, lenders or agents out of the area. Working by referral is, you know, and it's fun to chase online leads and sell and work the phones and convert people. But it's also really fun to get calls out of nowhere because, you know, your past client's best friend needs to sell their house and buy another one. And you don't even, they're not even talking to any other agents because this person that they really trust, you did a great job for them. And now they're, you know, ready for you to do the same for them. So I can't emphasize enough how huge past clients are for your success in this business. So just keep that in mind throughout the process. Any questions at this point? Okay. We'll talk on Thursday.
Yeah,
too.
well, we can talk more about like following up with people, but I think that, you know, holiday cards are a good touch. You know, reaching out at the beginning of the year, maybe January 1st or around there, and sending out your clients their closing statements, because they'll get it at closing and they'll get it from their title company usually, but it's handy and it's like a nice little touch that you can do where I set it up so that it's future scheduled for any client that I've closed. They get an email the first week of January saying like, you know, taxes are coming, you're going to need this specific form. Here you go. I already have it for you. And I think like little touches like that go a long way to keeping you top of mind.
Yeah, little touches really go a long way. And even if they already have that document and knew that you know, they need it for taxes or whatever, just that knowing that you're thinking of them and that you're looking out for them really goes a long way. Like multiple times I've talked to people that, you know, when I've talked to uncles or people that I respect that are a lot farther along in life than me, and they talk about, you know, what I do for work in my business. And multiple times I've heard from people that have probably bought and sold multiple properties, millions and millions of dollars in transactions. And they talk about their real estate agent that they've, you know, had since they bought their first home. They don't talk about like you know, how they showed them 50 houses or how they negotiated a sweet deal for them or how they beat out 20 other offers. Like what I always hear when people that have been working with an agent for a really long time, it's something like, yeah, you know, for the last 20 years, I've gotten a birthday card from them, or, you know, every Christmas they do whatever, drop off some random pie or whatever. It's like, it's the little details that really stick out with clients that stick with their agents for a long time. So just keep that in mind, that it's really like the thought that counts and just the consistency of staying in touch with people. So, you know, when it comes to following up, it's just super important. All right, so now we're going to kind of go back to the beginning of the process and we're going to talk about lead generation. And for a lot of you, this is probably something that you've been thinking about, because when you don't have any clients and you don't have any buyers, you want to know where your next buyer is coming from. So being new in this business, it's just super, I say super important. Like, so one of these days I'm going to watch a recording and count how many times I say super important. But it's super important to kind of define, to identify for you and your life and your lifestyle and, you know, everything that you've got going, what type of lead generation activities are going to be the most effective for you. Because there's so many different ways that you can get business in this job. And if you just try a little bit of everything and you're not consistent, like the chances of one of them producing referrals or leads or business is a lot lower than if you just figure out what might work best to you and then stick with it consistently. There's an article on Kenny from a couple years ago that was just talking about, like, you know, his rise and how big he's doing. And there was a line in here that I really liked, because obviously if you know Kenny and, you know, even the team, a lot of it is built on online leads, and it's something that anybody, if you have the skills to do it and you can pay a little bit to start those leads, like it's something that anybody can do. But in the article it says, with no affluent friends buying and selling Bay Area homes and no children that facilitate networking at birthday parties and soccer practice, the organic lead channels open to many agents are not available to him. And that was an excerpt from an article talking about how Kenny was super successful with online leads. And I think that article like one, it shows that there's a lot of different ways to do it. Like with no affluent friends buying and selling Bay Area homes. Like I've known people like that have just gotten into the business that just had the right network and obviously had some skill and talent and were intelligent people, but they got into the business and because of their network, like they're doing deals right away because they have the affluent friends buying and selling homes in the Bay Area, and they do a good job of making sure that when those friends need a real estate agent, they think of this person that they were friends with that just got their license. And then the next line, no children that facilitate networking at birthday parties and soccer practice. Like that's another, you know, again, your sphere, you hear sphere of influence a lot in this business. It's a term that I literally never heard until I was a real estate agent. And now I hear it and use it all the time. But basically, like, I think a sphere of influence is like, you know, people in your life that like you and trust you, and if you do your job right, would refer you a real estate opportunity if they had the chance. So, you know, speaking of children that facilitate networking, like I have 2 kids in elementary school, and that's been huge for my business. Like it's not just having kids, but because of those kids, and because of the activities they do, it puts me in a lot of positions where I can meet new people. Like obviously there's a lot more to it. I have to be friendly and like likable and get those people to trust me and be confident that I can do my job if they have the opportunity. But naturally, I have a lot more opportunities to meet people. So that's an opportunity that was available to me because of, you know, where I live and who I am, and because I have kids. So think about, you know, what it is for you. Like if you're super into some hobby, you ride bikes and you ride in big groups, like if you like doing that anyway, like go find more groups of people to ride with so you can meet more people. Like figure out, kids is just one thing. Like figure out what hobbies you have or what things that you do in your life that expose you to new relationships. And, you know, the reality of this business is that you're always looking for your next client. So, you know, even though it's a social outing, like when I became a real estate agent, I was a lot more excited to go to parties with my wife that I didn't want to go to, because I knew I'd be meeting new people, and who knows, maybe I'll meet someone that needs to buy, thought about buying a house, or has a friend or a partner that's going to, or, you know, maybe I make them a new friend that needs to buy a house in 2 years from now. So if you want to work by referral, it's something that's constantly like on your top of your mind. And obviously, like, you're probably a friendly, sociable person anyway. Now you're just doing it strategically. Like when I picked my kids up from school, back when school was like normal, like I wouldn't go through the drive-through line and grab my kids. I would get there a few minutes early and cruise around and chat with all the parents that were just hanging out, because that helped develop relationships. And eventually, when those people have a real estate opportunity, they know enough about me that they know they like me and they know I'm a real estate agent. So I get the call. So I'm going to read this pattern. When it comes to lead generation, you want to utilize a balanced mix of strategies. Going all in on one strategy is putting all your eggs in one basket. On the other hand, trying to do 12 different approaches will stretch you too thin. Choose a few methods and focus on making them work for you. Then once you have them run them systematically, go ahead and add 1 or 2 strategies at a time. And that's from Tom Ferry. If you're not familiar with Tom Ferry, he's, you know, one of the biggest coaches in the industry. He's had a huge impact on Kenny's business. His methodologies and just his teachings have really helped a lot of people be super successful. So that's really good advice. And that if you're sending out postcards, knocking on doors, which we're not doing right now, but, you know, sending out postcards, door knocking, working open houses, again, something else that's not doing, trying to have social media, trying to network, trying to cold call, trying to work 5 different sources of online leads. Like, you're doing a bunch of things, but the way you're going to develop in each of those things is going to be a lot slower. And also the time that you're putting into each one is going to be a lot less, because you purely just don't have, you know, time and energy is a limited resource. And if you're spreading it on 8 different activities, there's no possible way to do them all as well as if you were doing half. So really just thinking about what works for you. And it's not to say, like, don't try different activities and different lead generation sources, but when you try something, make sure you're doing it consistently and you're giving it a chance. If it was as easy as sending up with 500 postcards out and you get a listing, everybody would be sending postcards out. But it might take sending 500 postcards out once a month for 2 years to get that one listing. So if you try it for 2 months and you don't get anything from it and you give up, it was a waste of your time to do it in the first place. And same with working online leads, whether it's cold calling the lead pond or once you get to a point where you can receive like the online leads for different sources in the team, you have your first few conversations and they turn into nothing. Or, you know, I just showed one property and it was a huge waste of time. And like your attitude about it changes, you know, after just a short amount of time. Like it's not going to work, because pretty much every single online or every single lead generation strategy, including working by referral, is a numbers game. So the more time you put and the more effort you put on that particular task, the more results it's going to yield. And then over time, it's going to yield more and more. So if you know, some kind of activity gets you one deal a year, 3 years from now, that one deal a year is probably three deals a year, because it's just time on task is going to just improve the results. So really just thinking about what's going to be the most effective for you, and then also just being conscious of the fact that everybody has different strategies that are going to work for them, and what works for another agent might not be the best fit for you, and vice versa. So really identifying what's going to be effective for you when it comes to the lead generation portion of this business, because that's what it all starts with. You could be awesome at building rapport with people. You could be awesome at writing offers and being super strategic and negotiating. If you don't have leads and you don't have the initial contacts of people to turn into prospects and clients, it doesn't matter how good you are at anything else in this business. So you always have to be lead generating, because that's really the foundation of any real estate business. And like I said, lead generation takes a lot of different forms. It's not just cold calling. It's not just social media. It's anything that's going to give you a chance to build relationships with people that may need to buy real estate, buy or sell real estate, or know somebody that buy or sell real estate. Okay, so now going into the lead converting strategies. So there's there's obviously lots of different acronyms and lots of different things, but LP Mama is one that is kind of proven, and then ALMS is one that we're using a lot more, and they're completely different. So I'm going to skip to the next slide just because it breaks these down. So ALMS is appointment location motivation survey. This is something that you're going to use with like a warmer lead that basically is interested in at least looking at a property. If you've been on any of the Zillow Flex training calls, you're definitely familiar with this ALMS strategy, where you really lead with the appointment. If somebody's submitted an inquiry online on some random website that you got the information from, or called Zillow because they want to see a property, that person's ready for an appointment. So basically just getting the basic information so you can get that appointment. And then location motivation survey is all follows. Obviously you want to know where they're looking. You can find some additional properties that fit for them, and then find out a little bit more about why they're looking at this property and where they're at in the home buying process, and what they're going to do. And then survey is in there because, Zillow, ALMS is something that comes a lot on Zillow Flex, and Zillow sends surveys. So finding a way to, make a statement that's going to help ensure that when they do get the survey, you get a good one. Obviously that the survey is not always going to be appropriate, but the appointment location motivation and just the overall idea of leading with the appointment with certain types of leads is what I want you to kind of take away from this. LP Mama is a much more like nurturing type of structure to a conversation, where if you're calling somebody that obviously doesn't know you, it isn't necessarily a warm lead, like you can't just go right into like, hey, like there's this listing on 123 Main Street, like when can you go see it? you want to learn a little bit about where they're at. So obviously you're going to use this with somebody that for one reason or another, is at least lightly considering purchasing a home. And it's just the structure for the conversation. So you lead with location and figuring out, where they're trying to buy a house. And then obviously like price range, what's their budget, because location and budget, you need that basic information to discuss how to move forward. Because if somebody says, I want to live in Walnut Creek and I want a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house and my price range is $600,000, like the structure of that conversation is going to be a little different and a little more educational than somebody that's like, I want a condo in downtown, a 1-bedroom condo in Oakland, and I budget is $1.5 million. Like the way that you're going to structure that conversation is much different, because that person has plenty of budget and there's plenty of availability what they're looking for. Whereas the person that wants a 4-bedroom single family home for $600,000 in Walnut Creek kind of needs a reality check. So just the leading in this step-by-step order will help you figure out how you're going to guide that conversation and where this person's actually at. And then obviously motivation. So once you've determined what it is they're looking for, why are they thinking about buying a house? Are they in a lease that's up? Are they having kids and they need more space? Are they getting kicked out of a rental? Are they relocating for a job? Like, I think understanding someone's motivation is super important. Super important for being able to effectively communicate with them when it comes to what the process is going to be like. Because somebody that absolutely needs to find a place in the next 60 days, their search is going to be different than somebody that has a month-to-month lease with a mellow landlord and can, maybe wants to buy a house, or maybe they're going to wait a year, or they're waiting to see what happens with this job. It's knowing what to do, because then you can always bring it back. Like understanding their core motivation in the beginning, it'll help throughout the process. If somebody wants more space because they're having kids, or they want to be outside more, or they need an extra bedroom because they're working from home permanently now, those are things that you can bring up when you get a chance to go tour that first property, and you can highlight like, hey, picture yourself in this backyard, like, this is kind of what you've been looking for, right? Or like this floor plan's perfect with this extra bedroom downstairs, like that's going to make a great home office. Like being able to point things out that you learned in some of these initial calls is just going to establish you as somebody that is really like thoughtful and attentive to that person's needs. So understanding their motivation in the initial conversations is key to being able to provide thoughtful service. Obviously, another agent, you want to find out if they're working with another agent. If someone's obviously working with another agent, then you're probably not going to continue on with that person. But if somebody looked at one house with somebody 6 months ago and hasn't talked to them since, like that's a conversation. Like you want to tread really lightly if somebody has worked with another agent. You absolutely do not want to step on another agent's toes, and you absolutely don't want to do anything that could be perceived as stealing a client from somebody. But at the same time, like if this person's been talking to you for 20 minutes about their real estate needs, like how much are they really working with this other agent? So obviously it's a nuanced conversation, and how you proceed is really going to depend on what that relationship is like. But if somebody's clearly working with another agent, like you're not going to try to convince them to work with you instead. But if they're not happy with that other agent and they want to reach back out to you, you leave that door open. But, you want to be ethical in this business, and it's a small world and everything comes back around. So mortgage is, obviously you want to figure out financing. Price range, people will think there's some calculators online.
Hey John, Amy had a question for you.
Of course.
Yes. So what if the buyer is working with an agent but wants help from other people? So, I said, oh, here's this upcoming listing in my area. I noticed that you also, ask for some help. So how does that, so I obviously didn't say like, okay, now you need to work with me if you want to move forward with this potential property, but how would you try to maneuver that, or where's the line?
If they'd made it clear that they're working with an agent, I would say like your agent can get you some information on the property, or like have your agent call me, like, make it really clear that you respect that relationship with the agent. Because if it's somebody there's people out there that are, and once you start working online leads, you're going to run into these people that like don't understand how it works, don't respect agents' time, and just want, my agent's out of town, I just want to see this house. Like they don't realize that, their agent can help them with that. So if it's somebody that's clearly working with another agent, you just want to like refer it back to another agent. And then if it seems like through them that, their agent's not doing a great job, that kind of opens the door for you. But you just want to be really careful with how you handle those situations. And we can definitely like kind of open it up and talk more about it on Thursday, because that is a tricky situation. But there are people out there that are just going to waste a bunch of different agents' time, and then, have their cousin write the offer that lives in LA. So it's like you obviously want to like be open to those opportunities, but like you don't want to step on any toes, and you definitely don't want to waste your time. So, and
if you're not their agent, you're not supposed to be advising them on anything.
Yeah,
you don't have that fiduciary duty. They don't have that agency relationship with you. They have it with their agent. So you don't want to step on those toes or be providing guidance on that level. But
yeah,
in the interest of time, I'll be quiet.
I would refer to them back to their agent. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that helps.
Yeah, so basically ignore their requests for help from other people.
Yeah, like don't tell them to talk to their agent. Like, and then if they like, well, why, if it opens up opportunity to like find out more about why they're talking to you, like then go down it. But if it's someone that's just trying to take up your time, like send them back to their agent. So mortgage in this conversation is, and it's something that in initial conversations, you really want to be, again, tread lightly with how you discuss mortgages. Obviously you want to provide information and guidance on how to obtain financing if they haven't already, and the next steps. And ideally you want them to, use lenders that are good and can get the job done. And I say be careful, because you really want to, you don't ever want to come off like you're kind of qualifying this person on if they can, yeah, I'm down to help you, but like, have you gotten pre-approved? Like, are you, you don't want to sound like it's a prerequisite for you being a resource to them that they're, going to get pre-approved and are definitely going to do that. Because if you'll hear all the time about people that started with clients that hadn't been pre-approved yet, and that they turned into great buyers and close the deal. So it's like if my answer to the question is, should I show someone houses that's not pre-approved, is absolutely. You obviously want to understand why they're not pre-approved yet, and know that they're actually serious about getting pre-approved. But sometimes someone needs to look at a couple houses to be even sure they want to like pursue the process. So if you're just totally closed off to people that have not been pre-approved, you want to do it in a way that when you talk about mortgages and financing, that you're bringing it up because you want to be a resource for them and answer questions about that process and guide them to people that can help them, not that you're validating that they can actually buy a house. And then the LP Mama appointments last. So it's like all this rapport is established. You know about what they're looking for and why they're looking for a home. Where they're at as far as in terms of financing, even if they haven't done anything about it yet. And in the LP Mama strategy, like you built that rapport, you've showed some value, then you go in and try to get the appointment. So it's very different in that setting the appointment is last with LP Mama, after you've established that you generated some trust and generated some interest in the process. Whereas appointment, that this person wants to go see this property. Don't mess it up by asking them a bunch of questions that get in the way of setting that appointment, because it's pretty much like teed up for you to set that appointment. And then once you're on that appointment, that's when you can build even more rapport, learn more about their process or their position and what they're doing. But obviously you're going through all this other stuff to set an appointment. with online leads that want to see houses, just set the appointment. Like, and again, like join us on those Zillow Flex training calls. Even if you're brand new and you might be a little ways away from being able to work them, I think there's some valuable insight on how to communicate with leads, especially, you know, online leads on those Zillow Flex calls. So we can definitely talk about this and you know, run through different scenarios on Thursday with this structure of how to go through calls. I threw this in there. This is just excerpts from a buyer's agent. And I know, so these trainings are on the calendar till 12:15. I had a little screw up today with my family schedule, and I have to cut it off at noon to take my kids to school because they go to school 2 days a week for 2 hours because that's how it works these days. So I'm going to cut it off. I encourage people to hop over to Karina's room. She does daily huddles at noon. So if you want to ask any questions or chat about any of this or anything at all, Karina's going to be taking off at noon anyway. So I'm going to cut this off in 5 minutes, and I apologize for cutting it short, but we'll go into more detail on Thursday. But this is, these are pages from our buyer's consultation. This is a document you should be super familiar with yourself, because there's a lot of good information in here for new agents, obviously. But these are kind of big things that you want to highlight with buyers, and being able to do a proper buyer's consultation. That's something Elias does a ton of coaching on. That's a huge tool for you in turning leads into prospects and clients, is because it's an opportunity for you to take someone that's really on the fence about buying a house in general and taking them through that consultation and showing them it's a daunting process. And if you can break it down and assure them that, you know, you're going to guide them through it, the buyer's consultation is a great opportunity to really like move someone along that's just thinking about it and get them more serious about it. So check out these buyer consultation. If you haven't, you can customize it to yourself, but being confident in buyer's consultations, and we can talk about more on Thursday, it's like a basic tool that you should have, is being able to take someone through buyer's consultation. And you're rarely going to do a formal buyer. I can't tell you the last time that I've done, I've had a buyer's consultation appointments, but there's elements of the buyer's consultation that I've had in many, many, many conversations with new clients and potential clients. And a buyer's consultation, like if you can do the full blown consultation from start to finish, then you can take the pieces of it when you need to, depending on what's coming up with these particular leads or prospects. So you've got a client, now what? And so this is just talking about, once you understand motivation and timeline, that's when you can kind of really make a plan. And really, once you've won somebody over, making it clear kind of what the next steps are like, figuring out how you're going to communicate and how regularly they want to be looking at properties, and what they're, are we going to be looking on weekends? Or are we going to be popping in random times during the week with their schedule? Like, talk to them about, do they prefer call or text, and make it really clear that you're going to be communicating with them on a regular basis, because now you're looking for a home. So you're in the thick of it. Setting up list alerts based on the criteria discussed. Like, we're short on time, so I'm just going to leave the listing alerts part to next week, because there's a lot that goes into it. It's simple and straightforward, but at the same time, there's some basic things when you're setting up listing alerts that you want to apply. Just because someone says they want a 4-bedroom doesn't mean you necessarily limit their search to a 4-bedroom. Like, there's a lot of variables in the criteria. So we'll talk about setting up listing alerts, but the thing I want you to take away from this last slide is, once you've done all that work to establish that relationship, really laying out the next steps and making it clear like what you're going to do for them and how it's going to work going forward. So it's clear that you want them to feel like they're in good hands, and you want them to feel like they know where they're at in the process and what's going on. So they, if you had some conversations and you did that, but they're not really sure, like, yeah, I think he's going to send me some houses, or maybe we're going to go look, like, I don't know, like, you don't want any doubt in their mind as to what's next, once you've really established that you are their buyer's agent and you're going to help them find a home. So apologies for cutting it a little short today. Any quick questions or feedback or anything for me?
No, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
John.
Hopefully there's some good info in there. Michael Spivey. Oh, he just bailed out.
Right.
But it's good to see some,
right
some experienced agents in here. And Michael, how'd I do? You know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I give, 2 thumbs up. I thought it was smooth, a lot of great information and, went into details.
All right, cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, and we'll try to get maybe a couple squad leaders, or just it's nice to when we're talking through some of the stuff on Thursday. It's nice to just get some practical insight and feedback from the agents that are have been doing all this stuff, because everybody does a little bit differently. So that's it for today. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey John. Hi, it's Machan. Where can I get the deck?
What's that?
Where can I get this deck that you use for the presentation?
So Karina, what's the best way? It should be in your onboarding link. The
buyer's presentation.
The buyer's presentation, yeah.
You would get it from your email. Molly would have sent you one when you first started.
Not the buyer's presentation. Your full deck that you.
Oh, this one that I used right now. I can send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send it to you through Canva today. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you. You guys have a great day.